We are going to talk about the correct pronunciation, or what should be the correct pronunciation of the Hebrew alphabet. There is an ongoing debate between the different factions of the Jewish people, how exactly each letter should sound. So one very interesting debate started about, let's say, it was 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago. I was in yeshiva then, and I was following a magazine called Or Torah. It was a monthly publication by Yeshivat Kisei Rahamim. Rabbi Meir Mazuz is the Rosh Yeshiva. He's known as a grammarian medaqdeq, like to know exact. Who Tunisai? Jerbai. This is Jerba. This is Jerba. Yeah, 100%. Now the funny thing is that Jerbaim, the Jews of Jerba, have difficulties with some letters and some vowels. They cannot pronounce the aleph and the hey. They cannot differentiate. So I was once in the synagogue when a new immigrant from Jerba was reading. It was Parashat Mishkan, and he had to read the word Aholi Av. Aholi Av. Each time he has to repeat like 20 times. Aholi Av. Aholi Av. It just didn't work. Like he's trying in his medachlik, and then he gave up. And also when they have a segol at the end of the word, they turn it into like Vayomar instead of Vayomer. No. Musileham mina aras. So they have their difficulties, and Rabbi Mazuz acknowledges that. He's not like some scholars who say our tradition is the best, most accurate tradition. He's very honest. But what happened at the time that Rabbi Haim Kanievsky, who's the leader of the Litvak yeshiva world, came out with a psak, with a ruling, saying that the Ashkenazi pronunciation is the accurate one, to the extent that if you say a bracha with Hashem's name according to the Sephardic pronunciation, you did not fulfill your obligation. And he says, at least even you Sephardic students who, you keep your pronunciation, but when you say the bracha, it started with the vowels. It was about the a and the o. That Ashkenazim pronounce kamatz as o, and we make no differentiation between patah and kamatz.
Where did they get this pronunciation?
So that's a good question, because people say if you have two different types of vowels for kamatz, as if kamatz and patah, then you have tzere haser, tzere maleh. There must be a difference. But with hirik, there's no difference. You have hirik haser, hirik maleh. There's no difference. It seems like that originally it was just a way to differentiate between what is called tenuah, havara aruka, havara ktsara, like elongated or shortened, or not even necessarily a difference that we know of. But anyway, Rabbi Kanievsky said that for a Sephardi to say the bracha correctly, he must say Baruch Ato Adonai. And if you didn't say the word Shem Hashem, you didn't say it's Adonai, you didn't fulfill your obligation. And of course, people were very concerned, the Sephardic yeshiva students who follow the Das Torah and Gedolei Ador, and this is what the rabbi said, you have to follow it. So Rabbi Mazuz wrote first about the vowels, and he came to the conclusion which he presented beautifully by using all the piyutim from the Golden Age in Spain, starting with Rabbi Dunash ben Labrat, was the first poet that we know of that period, who lived in Fez in Spain and Babylonia, and he knew the tradition, the living tradition, before the Hebrew was corrupt in Germany and in other places. And he shows a very simple fact that he rhymes kamatz with patah. He says Sinai ends with patah, rhymes with Adonai, which ends with kamatz. Now, if it's the way the Ashkenazim pronounce it, it will be Sinai Adonai. It doesn't rhyme, and we know that the Spanish poets were very, very medakdek on not only the vowels, even when they had a rhyme, they said it's not enough to have the last syllable. And Rabbi Ami ben Ezra, there's a famous statement that he made. He says, "Al taharoz beshor v'hamor." Al mishkal al taharosh, don't plow with an ox and a donkey. He said, "Al taharoz," don't rhyme a donkey with an ox, even though they sound shor v'hamor. He said, take the hamor leharamor, right? He gives you the full syllable. Take the rhyme more with more, ve'et hashor b'mishor. So they were very medagdek. So it's impossible for them to rhyme a with o. That's it. End of discussion. After that, there was a certain scholar who challenged Rabbi Mazuz, sent letters to the Or Torah magazine, to the editorial board, and challenged him and attacked him, but anonymously. So they kept writing back to him. He never responded. They said, since you decided to be bivhinat haremez haromez ala aretz, שגם ירדו עליו אותו, in the same way. They said you were talking with allusions and hints and indirectly, and you don't expose your identity. But they also use the pasuk. They play haremez haromez ala aretz is a play on the word all crawling creatures of the land. That's Rabbi Mazuz style. Could be like sharp. So he said, let me go and clarify for you all the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And he says we come from the point of view with the assumption that the Hebrew language is an economic language, and there's no unnecessary repetition of vowels, and no letter would be like you have, like Latin speakers at a certain point said that you don't need the C, since you could always use the K, but we know that they used to pronounce it K all the time. So he says in Hebrew we know that all the letters, each one has a unique way of pronunciation. Now to that we have to add something else, and that is let's speak about the letters that are known as being different between Sephardim and Ashkenazim, and those are the het. That the Ashkenazim cannot say het, and they say all het as chaf, right? Again, kaniti perach, chadash, achaim nechmadim, and so in that manner, right? Now, the letters are divided in Hebrew into, in every language there are different, we use different tools of our in our body to produce the sounds. In Hebrew they're called hamisha motzei safa. There are five tools that pronounce the letters, and they are the lips, the tongue, the palate, the teeth, and the throat. So shinaim, safa, hech, lashon, vegaron. The letters that we call groniot, that come from the throat, are aleph, hey, het, and ayin. A, ha, ha, a. The letters that are pronounced with the lips are bumaf, bet, vav, mem, pei. The letter that are pronounced with the palate, using sort of like putting your tongue on top of the palate, are gichak, gimel, yud, chav, kuf, and okof. And later I'll say exactly how you pronounce it. And the letters that are pronounced with the tongue are datlanat, daled, tet, lamed, nun, taf. You cannot say them without using your tongue. Datlanat. And then with the teeth, zasasrat, zayin, samech, shin, resh, and tzadik. And if you go and look at all these letters, you see this is how each one of them is pronounced with those tools, with those motzei lashon. Now, before last century, it was a German grammarian, Jewish German grammarian, Aharon Marcus, who was a Yeki, but became a Hasid at a certain point. He was very learned and dealt with all the languages, like the Wissenschaftes Judentum. That was the school of Judaic studies that grew in Germany, and he wrote a book, an amazing book about the Hebrew language called Barzilai. And one of his discoveries regarding the letters was that the Hebrew alphabet is built in a gradual way. If you look at the first four letters, Aleph, 5 letters, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, they are basically one of each Motzei Lashon, one of each tool, and then so for the first four, and then Hey comes to the next level. Meaning, when you teach the kid, you teach the letters that are easiest to pronounce. Aleph is from the throat. A, Bet, from the lips, Gimel, the palate, and Dalet, the tongue. Then the second round, Hey, is again from the throat. Only you went from Aleph, which is easy, to which is the more difficult to pronounce. You went from Bet, which is easy to pronounce, B, to W, which has more stress on it. You went from Gimel, G, to now Zayin comes in, which is the teeth, which was not presented before, and so goes the whole alphabet. So those are also important things to remember, because when you come to the different traditions, and you ask, how do you pronounce this letter? Even when they differentiate between them, not necessarily it's accurate. For example, when the Yemenites say the Gimel with the Dagesh, they pronounce it as Gimel, then they moved the area of pronunciation from the palate to the lips or to the tongue, but it's not originally where it was supposed to be. And obviously, when the Ashkenazim pronounce Taf as Saf, it is a completely different letter. So, what is the right pronunciation for that Rabbi Mazuz came to the conclusion that the most accurate tradition in pronouncing the letters, I don't want to offend anyone, I'm not saying it because I'm Iraqi, but he said the Babylonian tradition is the most accurate, except for one mistake. He says it's not complete. There's one problem. The Iraqis, like many Jews who lived in Arabic-speaking countries, cannot differentiate between the vet and the bet. So all the vets, right?
Yeah.
Pronounce B.
So you don't say wow. Why the bet?
I do.
Yeah.
We say wow. So I'll explain that. But the like my father would say Sahob, right? Sahob, Halab, Yaqub. Now there is one community that still keeps that. They don't keep some of the other letters, but they do emphasize that you have to say bet. There's the Syrian community. They will write Parashat HaShabua, Yom Tov, Yaakov, etc., etc. But Rabbi Mazuz in his essay proved that this is incorrect. Now let's go letter by letter. Those which are problematic. So Aleph, everybody knows how to pronounce. Bet is a letter that has a dagesh. Sometimes it's with dagesh without. So it's vet bet. Gimel. Now, let's put it this way. There are 6 letters called Beget Kefet, which have Dagesh Kal, Beget Kefet Berosh Milah, Bet Gimel Dalet Kaf Pei Taf. When they are in the beginning of the word, they get a Dagesh, or in the middle, they don't have a Dagesh. There are the rules, but this is the basic one. So, in modern Hebrew, all that was left from Beget Kefet is Bet Kafe. Bet, Kaf, and Pei. So people say Vet Bet, Chaf Kaf, Fe, Pe. But in the Sephardic tradition, in most communities, we also differentiate between Gadat, Gimel, Dalet, Taf. In that manner, Gimel with the Gesh is G, without is Gimel. Dalet, Dalet, Taf, Thav. So it's Ra, Tha, Tha. Easy for Greek speakers, so it's good. So Aleph Vet. Now you got Aleph Vet, Bet, Gimel, Gimel, Dalet, He. A little more throaty than Aleph. Wow. So what is the Vav? Is wow. To differentiate between this and the Vet. And where do we have preserved this pronunciation of the Vav? When we have no. I'm saying besides that, I also say wow when I read the Torah. In modern Hebrew, when you have shuruk in the Vav, you say u chtavtam. You don't say vu chtavtam. Say u. So the wow is a little bit preserved over there. Then you have zayin, no problem. Het, big problem for a lot of people, right? Some people say it correctly, het, because that's how they heard it. It was supposed to be come from the throat, but smooth, not raspy, like some say because they try to pronounce it. It's a difficult letter. Then tet is also a tricky one, because tet and taf sound the same. Mm-hmm. So how do you differentiate? Tet is a little deeper. It's tet. And again, say tet. So like you're dunking your tongue somewhere there. So that tet in contrast with taf. Then we have Yod, no problem, Chaf, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech. Samech and Tzadi are confused by some of the traditional speakers because they think that every Tzadi should turn to Samech like Sisit. Right? And the truth is that the sound of Tzadi doesn't exist in Hebrew, but the right pronunciation is not Sisit, is Silsit. You have to say the Sa should be emphasized like in Arabic. Sa. Right. But I'll come to the Tzadi and explain why it doesn't exist in Hebrew. So then we have Samech is just as it sounds, Samech, Ain, A, also a deep sound, Ain, Fe, Pe, Sadi. Now here is important, Sadi. This is a story that I heard from Rabbi Mazuz when he came to Israel from Tunisia, from Jerba. He also taught Hebrew in a high school. There was a rabbi, was a dayan, but that's what they got, and he taught Hebrew and math, Hebrew and math. And one of the teachers, or some teachers, challenged him for his pronunciation. Said, "Why are you saying Sadi?" He said. So they asked him, "Why do you pronounce Sadi?" They said it's not the correct pronunciation. He says, "It is," and he proved it to them. In that manner, he said, in Hebrew does not accept the sound ts. It rejects it. How do we know that? In Hebrew, you take a verb that it's any three-letter verb, and you put it in a binyan called binyan itpa'el, right? So, which is reflexive. So, for example, hitlabesh means dressed himself. Hitrahetz, washed himself. Hitakel was consumed. So it always is hit, starts heitaf, and then the verb, right? The letters of the verb, aleph, kaf, lamed, remains. Achal, itakel. Lavash, itlabesh. Gadal, itgadel. Except for when it starts with tzadi. Tzadak, how do you say nitpa'el? Hitstadek. Hilstadek. Hey tzadik, tet, dalet kuf. What happened here? That's where I explained to them. If you would have say hitsadek, in the way which we pronounce the tzadi, original tzadi, hitsadek, then the t and the s, the taf and the sadi together would form tzadi, as in modern Hebrew, and the Hebrew does not accept it; it rejects it. And it's true that you don't find in other Semitic languages. Arabic doesn't know the sound tzadi. There's no tza in Arabic. There's sa, but in European language it's very common. So or maybe they took it from the Greek, right? It's common in the Greek. This sound of tz. In any case, this is the sadi. Kuf, another problematic letter for non-Sephardic speakers, because it can be confused with the kaf. So it should be qof, deeper. Resh should be how do you call it? The R, like that. Rolling R, right? Rolling R, right? But not like the rimel. And this is also a problem for some Arabic speakers. I mean, my father told me that as a kid in Baghdad, they used to work with them on the Arabic because they used to speak the local Arabic would be with R. So he says, repeat after me. أمر الأمير الأمراء بحفري بير في الصحراء ويشرب منه الوارد والصحر. And the kid would say, أمر الأمير الأمراء بحفر بير في الصحراء ويشرب منه الوارد والصحر. And of course, he would get but the R is a problematic letter in all languages, but in Hebrew would be a rolling R. Resh, not to be confused with the Gimel. Then Shin, Sin, and Taf is differentiated by Tha and Tam. So if we only look at the different letters between Sephardim and Ashkenazim, they will be Gimel, Daled, and Thav. Those are the Geshkal. And then Het and Ain, which are acknowledged, but they know it's different, but they don't know how to say it. And then Tayat and Quf and Sadi. Those are the main problems. Just last thing about the sin, because that's one place where you could say, hey, you have sin and Samich, the same pronunciation. Where did it come from? So we really don't know where did this come from. It seems like an ancient addition to the language, but One of my professors in NYU, Moshe Bernstein, said that there is he told me that there is an opinion or a direction where they study that it used to be pronounced like there's a lamed in front of the samech, like a deeper samech. And why would they say that? Because there are certain words that were copied or transported from the Hebrew to the Greek. And they were basically what we call today, phonetic transliteration of the word, but they got a little distorted on the way. And one such word retained the sin, and that's bosim, right? So how is bosim? How was it transported to the Greek or to Latin? Balsam. So when you say balsamic vinegar, it's vinegar with bosim, with the fragrance. So here you hear whoever transliterated the word heard the L, and that's why I wrote balsam. So that would be the difference, but that's nobody does that today. That would be the tradition. So this ideally should be the way that one reads according to his tradition, but the Sephardi world should be on that direction of learning those words.